E aí, pessoal, tudo bem? Eu sou o Fábio Noda e hoje eu vou conversar com Dougie Payne, o baixista da banda Travis. So, as my first question, I cannot start this interview by asking you how you're feeling about your next album. I mean, how are your expectations and what do you think the people will love the most about it?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, we're very excited about the new record. It's our 10th album, so it feels quite. It's like it feels beginning to feel substantial. You know, the kind of the body of work.
It's a long road, right?
Yeah, but we feel very energized and kind of ready to tour this record particularly properly. I think it's one of our. I think it might be our strongest album. I know everybody always says that when they have a new record out, but I really think it's song for song. It's extremely strong, really interesting, quite varied across the course of the whole record. And yeah, I'm very excited to play the songs live because we didn't get to tour the last album because of COVID.
Yeah,
we released it. I mean, we finished it a week before lockdown. Great timing. So we never got to tour that record, which was a shame because I think it would have been fun to play those songs. A lot of those songs would have been good live. And it's that thing where you sometimes, in fact, most of the time, you don't feel like a record finished until you play it live.
Yeah.
You know? And so this one, we are ready to do all that and go out and do it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play live. I think there's a lot of songs in this record that will really work. So yeah, so we're feeling very good about it, very optimistic.
Yeah, I think it's really common in artists about the COVID pandemic when like they were like releasing albums and they cannot touring about. So the next album after the COVID is just a big thing for them. So I can see this with you guys too. As my second question, I actually would like to ask you, what are your biggest influences on this album, your inspirations to write it down?
The record, do you know, a huge inspiration was actually the producer, Tony Hoffa. He's a brilliant producer. And, you know, we are a band that like to play in the studio. We're a band that like to kind of capture performances. Yeah. And he's a producer like that, and he works quick. So that was really great for us. And he brought a lot to the table. He brought a lot of his own expertise, and you know, he's very musical, and so there was a lot of melodic sensibility that he brought to the table. So it was like having a fifth member of the band for the course of making the album. So he was extremely influential. As far as external musical influences, he kind of, those things you only realize after the fact. I find we're not very good at planning, right? So it's not like we're not like Coldplay where we're going to make a dance record, we're going to make a record with Avicii, or you know, we're going to make a concept album. We deal with a song in front of us at that point. That's the whole world at that point. Is that little thing, that little song, and you focus everything in on that. So you're not thinking about external stuff or influences, or you're just trying to make this little thing, the best it can possibly be to elevate this thing to where you think it could get. And then after the fact, you go, oh, that's a little bit like this, or oh, that's a bit like, you know, that's a James Jamerson lick, or you know, whatever it is. There's those harmonies sound like Big Star. You know, there's you realize that because when you get to our age, you know, you've absorbed so much music for, you know, I've been listening to music since I can remember, since I was 2, with my older sisters. That's nearly 50 years of just listening to music. So you've absorbed so much that it comes out when you play it.
Yeah. Is it your first time working with this producer in specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time? Yeah, so you can expect something really different from the rest of your discography, right?
There are moments of difference. I mean, there's still echoes of things, but yeah, he just kind of coaxes the best out of people, and there are moments of difference. The title track might surprise some people.
All right. So, and what can you tell me about how the title of the album came out? I mean, LA Times, I think I can assume some things, but I wonder, why does LA Times actually is the title of the album?
Well, it's funny, there used to be a newspaper in Glasgow. It might still be around. There used to be a newspaper in Glasgow called The Evening Times, right? And when the guys were selling the newspaper on the street, would sell the Evening Times, they would shout, "Final Times! Final Times!" It was the last edition of the Times. Yeah. And so we years ago thought about calling an album Final Times. And, we always thought that was quite cool. And then we thought, no, we'll maybe save that for, a greatest hits or something down the line. Yeah. But then when Fran's been living in LA for 8 years. And, he's got very mixed feelings about it. He loves it and, doesn't like it so much at times. And sees the kind of the disparate nature of things in LA, and the fact, there's a literal fault line, and there's an economic fault line, and there's all kinds of fault lines running through LA. And I think maybe that acts as quite a good metaphor for the times that we live in, which are very fractured, and everybody's oppositional. It's like everybody is defining themselves by their opinion, and by facts or reality. So everybody's realities become atomized. So there's huge fractures societally between people, and that feels very like, the LA Times seems like an appropriate title for the times that we're in. It feels like, everything's a bit fractured, everything's very disparate, and everybody is really on one side or the other, of every argument. And people really are keen to voice extreme opinions, There's no, and, as in most things in life, it's a middle path. There's a middle way, it's like the Zen thing. There's a middle way, which actually is the way that makes sense. But we live in extremely polarized times. So, that seems like a good metaphor for where we're at societally.
Yeah, I can't wait for this metaphor just come out to the world and everybody can hear it. So, and at the beginning of your answer, you actually mentioned a newspaper in Glasgow. So right now I'd like to propose we turn back time and make some questions about how the band assembled, like back there in the 90s. Is that all right for you?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So you and Fran first met at the Glasgow School of Art, right? So is there anything you can share with us about your experience, like studying in one of the most traditional art schools in Scotland?
Yeah, well, I mean, Fran and I actually met before we went to art school.
It was
before? We met in a life. We were 17 when we met. So we met in a life drawing class, where it was a little course that you go to build up your portfolio to get into art school. Right. So we were in a life drawing class, and we just, said a couple of sentences to each other, made each other laugh, and then we were pals. And then we were just hanging out, and then we both got into art school. And on my first day at art school, I met Andy Dunlop, our guitarist, in the bar, the Vic Bar, at the art school, and we were the art school guys in the band. Neil, I already knew as well. I'd met Neil, the drummer, working in the summer before I met Fran. Even I was working in a shoe shop. Yeah. And so he worked in the warehouse.
So you were all like life friends.
Yeah, I met them all individually, and I loved being at art school. I had a great time. All my best friends, pretty much to this day, are people that I met around the art school. And I had a very happy 4 years studying sculpture and postmodern theory.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic place to be at that time. Kind of between I was there 91 to 95.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely great. And while I was at art school, and we were all friends, there was Fran, Andy, and Neil were in a band with two other guys called Glass Onion. And that band just went on, and I was, they were kind of doing gigs for, Fran left art school to concentrate on Glass Onion. And then I graduated, and he's, as soon as I graduated, pretty much he said, he wanted me to join the band. He asked me to join the band. And so I did. And, that was April 96. And the four of us just started rehearsing. Felt great. I had nothing to compare it to, but they were like, oh, it was amazing. And so the four of us played one gig in Glasgow and then moved to London. And then we got signed. We moved to London in June, and we got signed by Andy McDonald in the October. So it all happened very quickly after that.
Yeah, I can see some like McCartney and Lennon in that background story. It's really nice. So fun fact that I know is that you didn't know how to play a single bass string before you get into the band. So why did you accept the invite to be a part of it? And how was the process of learning everything you do know now?
Well, I hadn't played bass before, but I played guitar. And my first instrument was saxophone. But I'd always played, and Fran and I would play in the house, and when we came round. And Andy and I, when we were at art school together, we would have jams in the printmaking building on a Friday night, bottle of wine, and sit and play Small Faces songs. And so I'd play guitar, but I hadn't played bass before. So I basically, Fran just gave me a tape of 5 songs and said, right, let's just learn these and we'll rehearse next week. So I just was like, okay. I just worked it out. It was pre-internet, so there was no kind of looking things up on YouTube and cheating and going, what's your bass? I just had to make it up as I went along and learn quick. But that's a good way to do it. You just go, right, well, I'm just going to do this. And the thing about playing, as soon as you start playing anything, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
Every day, to this day, every day is a school day. You are always learning. I'm always learning new things and practicing, and just because I like it. It's a great thing to do. It's good for the mind, playing an instrument. Very good for the brain.
Yeah. You played other instruments, but right now, can we assume the bass guitar is your the most passion of your life, the greatest passion of your life?
Yeah, I really like it. I do like playing it. I like learning about it. I like I'm learning about the modes now. The modes of the scales, and I'm finding myself as I get older, really becoming more interested in the music theory side of things. And the bass is a good instrument to learn those things, or to kind of navigate through music theory, because it is relatively simple, and you can gain complexity, through learning, like the Phrygian, Dorian, Mixolydian, all these modes, and it's fun. But I love playing the piano now as well. I started taking the piano relatively seriously in lockdown, so I'm very into the piano. So I'm combining those two things at the moment.
Yeah, different vibes, right? So also during the last 30 years of you were acclaimed by some of the greatest artists of all time, like Paul McCartney and Elton John. So what does this kind of recognition means to you, specifically about the bassist of the Beatles, Sir Paul McCartney?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that you meet these people, you know, and you're obviously, you know, they know that you're freaking out. They know that everybody's freaking out, whether it's Bowie or Elton John or McCartney. They know. But the great thing about the true greats is that they put you at ease. They make you feel welcome. They make you feel like they're kind of like you're just having a conversation. And McCartney was like, they're all the greats are like that. And meeting Paul, we kind of got to know Paul quite well, really, kind of back in the day. We ended up going to his birthday party. Me and Fran ended up going to his birthday party at his house in London.
Das must felt alive.
Yeah, 65th. So there's you never quite lose the surreal feeling of, oh my God, I'm in Paul McCartney's house, or oh my God, I'm sitting having dinner with Paul McCartney. You know, a fucking Beatle, you know. And but he's amazing, and you know that guy just is music. He just breathes music. You know, he's incredible. And yeah, one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest.
In my opinion, he is the greatest. In my personal opinion. You maybe kind of he's there with Stevie Wonder. He's there with he's there with Lennon, obviously, with Bowie, with Prince. You know, just the greats. And he's a lovely man. He's a lovely man. Really the nicest guy, and super cool. Super cool. Yeah, I went to his tour here in Brazil last year, the Get Back tour, and like you can feel there's a legendary aura around him. But he also just give interviews and talking like he is still today that kid that grew up in Liverpool. So meeting him in person must be just like from another world.
Yeah, it really is. It feels pretty amazing. And you know, I became a Beatles fan when I was 2 or 3 because my sister, my elder sister, she's about 10 years older than me, and she was obsessed with the Beatles, but only the early Beatles, the first half. Please, Please Me, Help, right? Those 5 albums. She would just play them over and over again. So the Beatles went into my head when I was 2, 3, 4, and to this day I know all the words to those early albums. Right? It's like I know them inside out.
Yeah.
And so it's quite. And then I discovered the second half of the Beatles when I was a teenager on my own. So it's like 2 different bands. So having this guy who's been part of my whole life, basically, you know, kind of sitting in front of you and saying, "Do you want a drink?" it's pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, we can see that actually because the original name of your band was Glass Onion, which is a Beatles music, right? So one of my questions is, why did you guys change the name to Travis? There is any symbolism around this name that we don't know about?
Travis, the name comes from a movie. Everybody thinks that it comes from Taxi Driver, the Martin Scorsese movie, Travis Bickle. But it doesn't. It comes from a movie by Wim Wenders, great director. The movie's called Paris, Texas. And the main character in that is called Travis Henderson. And he's played by Harry Dean Stanton. And it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's really brilliant. And it was a movie that really affected Fran and I. We were both like, this is amazing. And he was like, Travis is a great name for a band.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a good name for a band, because we were in Scotland. We didn't know that Travis was like a really common name.
Like Travis Scott and Travis Baker. There's a lot of them.
We'd never met anybody called Travis. We'd never met anybody from Travis County. We'd never heard Travis Tritt. We didn't have a clue that this is a really common name. It's like calling your band, if you come from Scotland, Jim or something, you know.
Yeah.
So we were a really cool name. It was like really weird and exotic to us. So we thought, yeah, that's cool. And so went for that because Glass Onion was the band before I was in it. Right? It was the three of them, Andy, Neil, and Fran, and two other guys. And I think it just felt like Glass Onion was that was kind of the pass, and it was a fresh start, I think.
Okay, so right now I'd like to go back to your album release and talk about Gaslight. And why did you guys choose this song to be your lead single?
Well, that is a really good question because there was a lot of discussion about it. We really didn't know what was going to be, what we thought should be the first single. We all had different opinions. And in this day and age,
may I know why was your opinion about the lead single?
My opinion, I'm trying to remember because I wanted certain things, something to be first on the record, and something to be, I think a song called "Alive" might have been my choice for single, but we didn't have a clue. Bands never have a clue. You don't know what's going to chime with people, what's going to connect with people. So we all had different opinions, and our radio plugger, Kev, he said it should be Gaslight. And we were like, and I don't think anybody had mentioned Gaslight as the first. It was like, oh, really? Gaslight? Huh, that's an interesting idea. And so I think we just went, that's great. It's impactful, it's very pop, super catchy. It's also quite nice because it has little echoes of previous records, like going right back to the first album. So when you're releasing your 10th record, it's nice to have these little echoes that maybe people can pick up on. So we just thought, let's do that.
Okay. So during that process, I saw that you guys asked on your Instagram profile, what songs does your fan was most looking forward to hear it? And do you remember what was the most voted song on that?
Well, from the album from the song titles?
Yeah.
No.
There was a song, a lettering video. I don't know who was on the band, but you were writing down the name of the songs. And
Fran was writing them out.
Yeah.
I don't know which one they voted for. I have no idea.
Okay. Can we expect another single before the official album came out in July? Or I guess it's going to be the only single?
Yeah. There'll be another song that we will put out before the record. I think we're supporting the Killers in the UK on tour through June and early July, and so there'll be another song out around about then, and then the record comes out in the middle of July. So yeah.
Okay, so another thing that I would like to talk about is that you guys are touring around Europe right now, and you're going for in 2024, and you're probably going to change a little bit the set list to introduce your new songs. What are the songs of LA Times that you're most seeking forward to play it live?
The ones that I'm most looking forward to, I'm really looking forward to playing Alive. Really looking forward to playing LA Times and Gaslight, the title track itself. All of them, really. But there's one that is going to be, which I'm looking forward to, is called Raise the Bar. And that's going to be good because on that one I'm playing the upright bass, the big full bass.
That's super interesting.
That should be interesting, yeah.
I don't know if is it possible, but are you guys playing all the tracks of LA Times on your second semester touring dates? Or are you going to just choose pick one here, one another?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, we've got probably a set list of about somewhere around 25 songs, right? I mean, you've got 10 albums and all the B-sides. I mean, we're talking about 150, 160 songs to choose from just on our records.
It must be a really tough job.
It's hard. You've got. I mean, there's a lot of songs that people obviously really want to hear. A lot of singles, but also there's a lot of songs that we want to play from the new record. So we have to find a balance. You know, it's going to be it's going to be a difficult set list to write.
Really hard, but I think exciting as well.
Yeah.
And do you guys intend to like tour outside Europe? Maybe come to Brazil sometime?
We will be coming to Brazil. Yeah, we are in the process of putting together the plan for where we're going to go. We've just announced we've got the killer shows in the UK. Then we've just announced a little leg of European shows, and we're just putting together the plan for where we're going to go when. But I know for sure that we are coming to Brazil this year at some point. I don't know
this year
exactly. I don't know exactly where, and I don't know exactly when, but it's in there with a kind of it's pent in the diary. So because we haven't been to Brazil for 10 years, you know, which is ridiculous.
It's a long time.
I know, it's mad. Yeah. So and we only we're in your country for one day. It was terrible. I mean, why? That's a terrible. We should be there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you definitely need to come here to Brazil and spend a little bit more time.
Yeah, exactly. So we are very excited to come and see you guys, and we're going to try. Obviously, with not being able to tour the last record, we are really tour this one properly. So we're going to try and go everywhere, as many places as we possibly can, and see as many people as we possibly can. So that is the plan, but we will be coming to see you. And I have my friend Paul Thompson, who just lives around the corner. He played drums in Franz Ferdinand. Yeah. You know that band. He loves Brazil. We were talking about it last week, and he was like, "You can see those guys have played in your country a lot." He's like, "Oh man, you got to play Brazil more. It's amazing." And I'm like, "I know, we really do." And he's quite knowledgeable about Brazilian music, so he's going to get him to send me a playlist.
And the Brazilian fans are really famous around the world. Like playing here in Brazil must feel really different than playing outside Brazil. I can imagine that. So we will be waiting for you guys to come. And this year, so near actually from right now. So yeah, it's really exciting to hear those news.
Cool.
And coming back again to LA Times, now I would like to talk about the songwriting process. Is there anyone who is responsible for the lyrics, or everybody in the band writes some things and you just put together and then decide what's going to be on the tracks that is going to be on the album, the ones that were not? How is that process for you?
Well, Fran writes the lyrics, but it's funny when he sends demos, because back in the day we would sit in a rehearsal room and he'd kind of go, "Oh, we've got this tune that goes a bit like this," and then you kind of join in and kind of sculpt the thing into, lift the song up, raise it up to kind of be where it should be, and that's kind of not changed in a way, because Fran will send demos, but they'll be very sparse and kind of skeletal. And then you go, "Oh, that's a good one," or "That's a good one," or "That one's not so sure." So then we kind of like to keep things quite loose and light, and then get into the studio, and then you kind of focus down. So we won't do huge amounts of pre-production, because we can work quickly. Quite often lyrics aren't finished until we get into the studio, and so Fran will be kind of working things out as far as that goes, and we'll work out the arrangements and what, and when something works for a song, if the song tells you what's working and what's not working, you try things out, and go, "Oh, that's not so good," and then you try something else, and we're like, "Oh," the whole thing kind of blossoms. So it's a nice process, kind of getting to the point where the song's the best it can be.
Do you remember how long it took to you guys write it down, all the tracks on this new album?
The recording was the writing was kind of over a period of about maybe a year. No, probably not that long actually. 6 months of kind of getting demos, but but it was sporadic, and the recording was super quick. The recording was 3 weeks. We did it in 3 weeks in LA with Tony Hoffa, who was amazing.
Mm-hmm. And is there any song that occupies a special place in your heart in this album? You mentioned before the one that you wish was the lead single, maybe that one or not?
Alive, I really like it because it was called something different, and then I think it was Tony, the producer, that actually said, "Shouldn't call it that. Should call it Alive." And I was like, "Oh, that's." So that kind of, yeah, that's a good one. That'll be good live. That'll be good live. But the one that I kind of, Naked in New York City, I think is a great song. And when Fran sent the demo for that, it was only 45 seconds long. It was a tiny little. It was like just
almost an interlude.
Yeah. It was like, what's that? And it was just a verse and a chorus, and that was it. And he was kind of a bit like, oh no, I'm just leaving that one. And I was like, no, that's great. That's really great. I love that one. And so that was kind of extrapolated out, and he wrote a mid-late in the studio for it, and that's another one I play stand-up bass on. So it's got a kind of quite an interesting, almost like Van Morrison, Astral Weeks feel to it. And I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I can't remember right now the name of the first track on this album, but I actually heard, and it was my favorite one on the album. I would like to know the first one. Yeah, what was the name? I forgot right now. I'm sorry.
Bus.
Yeah, that
Bus.
one. Yeah, that one was my favorite. And what about you? What is your favorite track on this album? Maybe there's not a special story behind it, but your favorite one.
I think Alive.
Alive it is. Yeah, Alive it is.
I think that's one that I really love.
Yeah.
Bus is your favorite, really?
Yeah, it is. Actually,
there was a lot of people thinking that should be the first single.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people that who played the record to, it's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
I can't wait to people to hear the first one, because like I heard all of them. I think the job that you guys have done is just delightful, but the first one really was the one that pops up in my head. Like this one is really good. That is my favorite for sure, and I listen to it sometimes, and it still is my favorite one.
It's a really interesting one, because it's a lovely pop melody, but it's also got a little bit of emotional weight.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got a pull to it, which belies the kind of pop melody.
Yes. So when you guys do come to Brazil, I really expect to hear this one live. So yeah, thank you so much, man. Well, so last but not least, I would like to talk about there's a lot of bands who break up during their careers, like pursuing individual things or like different creative backgrounds and whatever it is. But you guys are together for over 30 years, like just playing good music. And I would like to know, for you, what is the secret around you guys together, and how your relationship with the other members of the band has evolved over the last few years?
Nice and easy question to finish up on.
Yeah.
The secret is the fact that we've been in a band for nearly 28 years, right? But we've been friends for 34 years.
Yeah.
And it's those 5 or 6 years before the band where we were just pals. That's the secret. That's it. So we got to know each other outside of the band. So those relationships and those friendships, that's the nucleus. And the band orbits around that. If those relationships are fractured, then the band doesn't function, it spins out of control. Those relationships have to be tended to and looked after, and the band orbits around that. With most bands, it's the band is the center, and the people and the relationships orbit around that, the other way around. So that's what keeps you together, because we know each other as people first and bandmates second. And so we know when we need distance from each other, when we need time apart, because that's the counterintuitive thing. The thing that keeps you together is time apart. You know, if you're in each other's pockets all the time for, 5 years, 6 years, you're going to explode. But you keep it together by giving each other space, giving each other time, and respecting each other. And as you do that, you realize what a precious thing a band is. Still the same four guys, still doing this thing, and you begin to value it in a very different way, in a much more profound way than you did when you were 25, 30. You see it as, this is a precious thing, and it should be looked after.
Yeah, I can feel that you guys are more than just music. You guys seems to be like a family, and that must be the secret around. So,
it's very family. We've been together for longer than we haven't.
Yeah.
We're now 50, and we've known each other since we were 17. So we've been together almost twice as long as we have.
Yeah, you have more experience together than apart. That's just wonderful. Yeah, so that was my question. So thank you so much for talking to me today. It was such a blast, this conversation with you, man. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to see you here in Brazil in the future. So
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, it was really nice. So goodbye and see you then. Bom, pessoal, então foi isso. Eu espero que vocês tenham aproveitado a nossa conversa. Eu fico por aqui e até a próxima.